So the core, in its infinite wisdom regarding its leadership development process, they knew that we had excuses, they knew that we had explanations, but they also know that excuses and explanations do not solve problems. They wanted us to continuously learn, adapt, apply, and be ready. I want you to imagine a culture of responsibility. Get into your mind for a second. It is a place where we work really, really well together. And if you make a mistake, I don't come down hard on you. And if I miss a deadline, you don't shame and blame me. I just say, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I did not mean to do that. I will get it to you right away. And we go on. We high perform together and we have fun working. And when we're in meetings, we're not gossiping. We're not talking bad about other departments. We're really raising people up. We're celebrating our successes. And if again, a problem comes up, it is not a big deal. We work through it. We know better. We do better. We learn, adapt, apply. Doesn't that sound great? Okay then, how do you get there? How do you, as the actual in your world, help influence this environment of responsibility? Let me take you back to share with you how I learned. And that was, way back when in the Marine Corps. Now, don't go through these practices to develop this culture of responsibility. Just take my experience, apply it in your world. But I'll share with you this origin story. So when I was a young Marine Corps candidate, I went through 6 weeks of officer candidate school. And it was everything that you could imagine Marine Corps training would look like. So one morning, as an example, we'd go for a long run, we'd get our rifles, we'd crawl through the mud and do some training, and we'd go on another path. We'd do an obstacle course, we'd take those pugil sticks and do some fighting, fun stuff, right? Well, at the end of the day, inevitably, our instructors would line us up in formation, dismiss us, and tell us we've got 10 minutes before inspection. Now, inspection was really important. They wanted to make sure that we were clean, combat ready, that we could go perform the next day. So they wanted us to have our uniforms pressed, our boots polished, our rifles clean. And they would just give us a little bit of time to get all of these tasks done. So naturally, you couldn't get really clean, you couldn't get your rifle clean in just this little bit of time. But then they'd line us back up in formation. And they'd go candidate and candidate standing right in front of us and ask us, what are the Marine Corps values, our history knowledge. They'd grill us on all these questions that we'd have to bark out, yes sir, no excuse sir. And then they get to why is your rifle so dirty? And all you could say was either yes sir, or ma'am, no excuse sir. I want to go to that no excuse because that was the most maddening answer. You would look at your instructor because you'd have to look at them, straight in the eye. But in your mind, you're like, is my rifle dirty? Did you not see what we did today? And I had tons of excuses. Like we were in the mud, we were crawling around in the dirt, we were running, we were going over these obstacles. There's plenty of reasons why I'm a mess right now, but no excuse. So the core, in its infinite wisdom regarding its leadership development process, they knew that we had excuses, they knew that we had explanations, but they also know that excuses and explanations do not solve problems. They wanted us to continuously learn, adapt, apply, and be ready. Just be ready. They wanted us to set this powerful example that excuses don't solve problems, leaders do. And so let's not talk about why, let's talk about what's going on and what it is that we're gonna do about it. So flash forward to today. This is a lot of the work that I get to do in organizations, inspire greater responsibility by really helping leaders just like you become the actual in their worlds, being that beacon of inspiration for others to follow, and helping organizations and teams within organizations really embrace responsibility. And you might wonder, why don't we just, demonstrate responsibility? And I think it's hard. Sometimes we're just afraid of hurting feelings. We're afraid of looking wrong. We're afraid of talking about problems. Sometimes we're afraid of doing more work, or sometimes we're just overwhelmed and we just don't know how to start. So I want you to think about how you can turn that trend of shifting your culture to responsibility just by adopting these 3 easy steps. And I say easy, they're easy to understand. They're going to require a little bit of discipline to adopt and apply, but don't worry, I think you can do it. So step number 1, you must express a powerful example. You have to be the example for others to follow. So if timeliness, deadlines, results, performance is important, you have to show your team what right looks like in thought and word and deed. And speaking of those words, stop having excuses. Don't say, oh, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. Explanations actually are excuses. So really just police your own language and don't offer excuses and don't shame and blame and don't tolerate gossip. You have to say, like, this is a performance-based organization. We're talking about what's going on, what's the goal, not the bad actors, but the results we're trying to drive. And really making sure you set that powerful example because people are looking to you. They are looking to you to keep the standards, and it takes a tremendous amount of discipline, specifically over our communication, to do so. So that's number one, your example. If you want to inspire change, and if you're not demonstrating what right looks like, it's near impossible to get other people to follow. Step number two is making sure that you address problems quickly, which can be really hard because that sometimes requires an uncomfortable conversation and we're uncertain. We don't know how to start it. And I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But if we can't talk about problems quickly, they are just going to persist. I talk to far too many individuals and organizations who get to end of year performance reviews. And it's in that conversation where they learned what they did in February, what was wrong. And all this time passed that they didn't have a chance to build that skill that was deficient way back in February. Don't do that to people. And you don't have to be a jerk about it either. Think about accountability-based conversations. You don't have to bring in HR every time somebody missed a deadline. Just pick up the phone and say, hey, Scott, hey, Rita, I was expecting that report today at 5. When do you think you're going to get it to me? Simple conversation. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but what you're communicating to your team is that these standards and expectations really matter. There's a phrase I learned in the Marine Corps, don't expect, inspect, making sure that what it is that's important to you, you can follow up on, and people are going to get the memo that you're really serious about those deadlines, about those commitments. Part of your role as the actual in your world is to demonstrate managerial courage. That's to do the tough stuff to help drive organizational performance. So having those accountability-based conversations, so key. So number one, again, set a powerful example. Number two, address problems quickly. And number three, when you are addressing a problem, make it about performance, make it about the problem. Don't make it about the personality of the person. If you want to trigger somebody's defensiveness and have an unproductive conversation, make it personal. But you don't want to do that. You want to make it about the issue. And if we can talk about the issue, we can get mad at the issue, we can get mad at the problem, but we can make it impersonal and have really productive conversations. So there you go. 3 tips, simply stated, tips you can address, tips that you can apply, and these tips too you can inspire across your organization. And if you can have everybody inspired to demonstrate greater responsibility, man, you can really drive performance in your organization, and it's because of something you did. I am Angie, the actual Angie, and if you like this content, please make sure you subscribe, share, get the word out. A lot of fun conversations we're having, and if you have additional tips on how to inspire greater responsibility, please put them in the comments below. I look forward to staying engaged.